Okay, I was actually looking through the manual to see if I can find a nice picture of the landing gear. And if you look at this picture right here, if I get a little bit closer, there you go. You can see how the landing gear kind of sweeps backwards. Now, if you think about this, if you're applying force straight down onto the, as the airplane's landing, you can see what I'm talking about is you're going to get sort of this force kind of pushing the landing gear back. That's the way I see it. That's the way I kind of see it. Why it's breaking, or one of the reasons why it's breaking, is that they should have just made this perpendicular, like a typical plane would. Typical RC plane should have it basically perpendicular. Now, it's not perfect. Obviously, even when you have a perpendicular landing gear, you can have a problem, and you could load the landing gear too much with a hard landing and snap it off. But this definitely is a design flaw. Okay, well, off camera, I've been working on shaping and fitting this plywood, the new plywood plate that I cut out using the pattern that I made using that paper method. And I think I got it right. It took a while. I had to use a combination. I had a roto tool. I like this Proxxon. You can use a Dremel and whatever. And if you don't have that, or if you can't, obviously I used things like razor saws, sandpaper, files, X-Acto blades, all that stuff. So it wasn't an easy thing. It took a little while to get it to fit, but I think I got it pretty well right now. So I'm going to try to slide this in here, or I am going to. And I made it so that it will go underneath this piece of plywood here. And let's see if I can get to go in here. It's certainly not pretty, but I am going to cover it all up. So there it goes. So it pops in here. And I got my engine covered just so that I don't get dust and stuff in there. So there's kind of how it's going to fit. I got it to fit pretty nicely. I am going to have to do some sanding and get, kind of like this. Here's a high edge over here. And so the landing gear is going to go right here again. But I think this is going to work out pretty well. Like, I went around this little block. Now this little block right here actually was not part of the original kit. I added a block on the top and the bottom for the cowl because the kit comes with two on the sides. But the cowl's pretty big. This is a pretty big cowl, and I was just worried about it flexing too much, so I wanted to go ahead and attach it at the top and the bottom also. So that block right there is not from the kit, so I want to work around that. So let me pull this out real quick here. And then what I'm going to do is to add some reinforcement. I'm going to take this piece of hardwood block and I'm going to put it, well, actually what I'm going to do, it's going to be back here. I'm going to glue it on the back of this piece. I'm going to glue it back there like that. And that's just going to give me a little bit more area to glue when I do the epoxy. When I epoxy this in, this will just give me that much more bonding area. And then I'm also have this other piece that I cut out of hardwood, and I'm put it right, it's going to go right back in here, if I can get in here. Let's use my hand. I'm trying to get it so it's going to go right in there like this. And so that's going to, again, it's going to add some additional bonding area, and this extends all the way to both sides. And there's a little spar or something on both sides on the inside of here that's going to be butted up against. So I'm going to epoxy that whole piece in there. And like I said, that's going to add a little bit more strength and a little bit more area to bond on. Now, this thing really is, the sheeting on the outside of this plane is very thin. And there's also, there are spars in here, but they're just balsa. So this is a very weak area. But I'm hoping that by doing this, this is going to strengthen it up a whole bunch. So I'm going to glue, I'll epoxy this in, and then I'm going to epoxy, like I said, this on the end, on the back of my plate here. And then I'm going to put this down, and of course epoxy it down on top of here. And then I'm going to reinforce it with the aluminum sheeting that I talked about. So first of all, I'm going to go ahead and put epoxy this on and this back in here. Okay, so I'm going to use a 30-minute epoxy. I'm going to use this Bob Smith Industries 30-minute epoxy. I think any 30-minute epoxy is fine. I think Loctite, other brands are just as good as these Bob Smith ones. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix some of this. I got a real mess going on right now in this work area. This isn't where I typically build or construct planes. It's just that I have another project going on the workbench over there, which is the Barnstormer 25S kit build. So if you checked out other videos, my other recent videos, you'll see what that's about. But that's taking up the space I need. So I'm gonna go ahead and mix a 1-to-1 of this epoxy. Of course, I got my rubber gloves on. Put this over here. Oh, where's my lid? Oh, there we go. Oops, got the wrong one on the wrong. That would not be good. Okay. So a little stick here. So this is 30-minute epoxy. So if you mix it equal, that's the goal, right? It takes about 30 minutes for it to set up, but then it's going to take, you don't want to mess with it. You want to give it a good 24 hours or so to cure before you really start applying a load to it or anything. So all I'm going to be able to do right now is I'm just going to epoxy these two pieces of wood. These additional supports on. I'm not going to epoxy the actual plate on right now. So here's my plate. Here's the top. So I'm going to go ahead and do this one on the back here. And I'm going to be very generous with this. Put some right here. Boom. And I'm going to add my piece right here. Okay. There we go. Press it down. I definitely don't want to. Let me get something flat. I want to see if I can. Just want to make sure that I have it all the way to the back here. I have to eyeball that, I guess. Okay, then I'm going to clamp it. I'm going to use one of these clamps. And if everything worked out okay. Gentle. So when you go to clamp something, what I do is you really check it, because sometimes it can glide on you a little bit. Because what happens is you have a layer of that epoxy glue in there, and it sort of, not only at this point in time, it's sort of like a lubricant, so that those two pieces are sort of riding on top of that, or if that's in between them. And so when you go to compress it with a clamp, if you're not careful, if you don't watch it, you could actually have that piece kind of glide on you. You don't want that. I'm going to put another one over here on this side. I'm going to move this one over here. Okay, good. All right, so there's that back piece. So this is going to go in like this, and this is going to give me an additional amount of bonding area. And I think I have plenty on here, so if this rips off of the plane now, I think the plane will probably be destroyed at that point, because it would be a pretty hard crash. Okay, so there's that. Set this aside on my messy table here. And now I'm going to go ahead and put this piece in. So let's see here. And I have my top marked on this one also. So again, I'm going to be a little bit, I'm not going to be stingy with this at all. You know, when you do a repair like this, you just never know exactly. Like, sometimes you do this stuff and you think it looks great, and then you go out in the field and you fly and it just breaks again. Sometimes you do a good job. Sometimes it's not even a matter about good or bad. It just sometimes it just doesn't, what you think is going to work doesn't work. So you just try your best. I just hope I can get it to work so I can fly this plane. Let's put this back in here. Okay, so now I'm going to have to, this is going to get a little messy. There we go. Oops. There. So let me check that real quick here. Make sure that I have it in the right spot. I feel like a doctor. Okay, that's good there. I'm going to use this one clamp here. Okay, good. All right, let me take a look at this. Okay, so we made a little bit of progress with this step. So we have our additional support here epoxied on. We have this one on the back piece of the plywood epoxied on. So we'll have to let that cure. Check it again. And I'm just going to let this sit overnight. I'm not going to mess with it at all today. I'm going to let that cure. And then tomorrow, or the next time, I'm going to come back and we'll put our plate back on and we'll start fitting for the aluminum sheeting. So what I'm going to do is when I get I'm going to cut the aluminum sheeting and I'm going to have it bent over here like I mentioned before. And then I'm going to place the holes and I'm going to place the T-nuts. And I'm going to do that before I install the plywood, because I won't be able to do it when the plywood is there. So that's it for this step, and we'll come back with the and continue on once this all cures up.